in that pops in the next minute or two. So you're just going to come just to a comfortable seat in your chair. Don't overthink it. Just going to let your pelvis land where it wants to land. Your spine, notice your rib cage, shoulders, and your skull. Okay. Feel your feet on the floor. And just take a second to just let your awareness kind of open up to pay attention to the next inhale. Just notice how the air moves into the body, becoming breath. And notice your next exhale. And we're going to do that 2 more times, just with awareness and observation of the air moving in, becoming breath, and moving out of the body. And be curious about qualities. So like, is it smooth or rough, thick or thin, full, empty, complete, incomplete? Spacious, restricted. Just kind of notice the qualities of your inhale and your exhale right now. And then let that go. Okay? Let your attention of the breath go. And just notice, sometimes we notice it when we start focusing on something, that something happens in us where we start to fix it or judge it. And just when you notice yourself doing that, see if you can just take a step back and simply observe it. Notice the qualities, the textures, the temperature, the sensation. Okay, just pay attention to the raw data. Let's take the feet wider than hip width. So in your chair, your thighs are kind of coming out to the corners of the chair. And then we're going to place the back of the right hand just inside the right knee. And we're going to take the left hand up behind our head. And then super simple, we're just going to side bend to the right so that right arm will kind of slide down the inside of that knee. We'll come to wherever we come to. And let's just take a breath here. Take a second to kind of feel both feet on the floor, both halves of the pelvis in the chair. Inhale, and then as you exhale, you're going to come out of that side bend. Okay, we're going to do that one more time. This time as you inhale, we'll side bend, sliding the right forearm down the inside of that right knee. Take an exhale here. Inhale here. And exhale to come up. And we'll just do that one more time. So again, you're going to inhale to side bend. You might come right on to that elbow, just on the inside edge of the thigh. You might keep the arm straight. You'll finish the exhale. Begin your next breath with the inhale, and then exhale to come up. We're going to reach down that left arm, reaching right through those fingertips, and bring the right hand up, just so we're cupping the occiput, like the round part of the back of the skull. Kind of feel both your sitting bones on the chair, your feet on the floor, and you're going to slide the inside of that left forearm, side bending over to the left this time. You might press that arm into the leg into the arm a little bit. You might turn the gaze towards the ceiling a little bit. And then on your next exhale, you're going to come out of that side bend, and we'll do that 2 more times. This time as we inhale, we'll bend to the left. Exhale here. That's where you might press the forearm into the thigh and rotate, turning the breastbone towards the ceiling a little bit. Inhale here and exhale to come up. So one more like that. Inhale over to the side. Exhale, you might press the arm and the leg into one another to help revolve that rib cage a little bit. Inhale here, and then on your next exhalation, you'll come up. Release the hands, bring the feet back, hip distance underneath the knees. And just take a second here again to let your attention kind of come into focus on noticing the next inhale and exhale. And again, just noting the qualities of them. Fast or slow, thick or thin. Okay. And then we're just going to bring the hands up and jazz hands, if you remember Will and Grace. Open up the fingers, you're just going to wiggle them. And then we're going to curl them in, kind of squeeze the fingernails with your thumb, and then open them up, kind of like you're flicking water off the fingertips. We're going to do that a couple of times. Okay, the next time you make a fist, we're going to make the fist, we're going to go to the pinky side of the hand. So kind of cocking the wrist to the ulna. And then we're going to scoop the knuckles around, trying to keep the forearms facing forward. Thumb comes towards us, palm towards the ceiling. Just really slow circles. Again, imagining that you're inside that peanut butter jar. And actually, let's bring the forearms down and onto our thighs, because then we can kind of feel if they start to roll. And so the knuckles are forward, the palm, although closed, is towards the floor. So cock the wrist to the pinky side, then extend the wrist, so lift the knuckles up towards the ceiling in your head. Then come around through towards the thumb side, try to keep the forearms still. Then lower down so the palm is kind of facing your shins and the wrists are flexed. Then come across in front of the shin towards the pinky sides of the hand and up towards the ceiling, coming into that wrist extension. Come across to the thumb side, down, and over to the pinky side. One more time, up into extension. Keeping those forearms still. Come across to the thumb side and down. Okay, just shake the fingers out. Relax the arms. And we're just going to shrug the shoulders. So I want you to think for a second that this isn't your shoulder, like where your arm kind of comes to the body. I want you to think of your shoulder as your collarbones, your shoulder blades, and the arm. So those three pieces are going to come up on the top of the rib cage cylinder and then down. So think collarbone, shoulder blade, arm bone, kind of all moving like this. Actually, you could bring your arms like this with your elbows, and that kind of helps that feeling of all three of those bones, yeah, flapping your wings, moving together. So now let's bring the elbows sort of towards one another a little bit, and we can even bring our fingertips onto the collarbones. You'll feel how your shoulder blades kind of widen on the back. And again, now move the shoulders, so collarbones, shoulder blade, arms up and down. Feel how that is with the shoulder blades slightly protracted. You might feel a stretch kind of between your shoulder blades and on your mid-back. And then we're going to bring the elbows and forearms right together in front. So even before we move, you might feel like, oh, there's a stretch between my shoulder blades. What we're going to do is we're going to bring the elbows down towards the belly button and kind of like we're going to somersault between the knees, flexing the spine a little bit. So you might feel even more of a stretch through that back. And then we're going to peel up, unflex the spine, lift the elbows away from the torso, rest the chin on the backs of the hands, and extend the spine a little bit. So we'll do that one more time. So tucking the elbows in towards the navel, tucking the chin on the back of the hands, coming into some flexion, and then coming up, lifting the elbows away, resting the chin on the back of the hands, coming into some extension. Let's open up those elbows out to the side, reach them around behind, stay in that extended spine position. Kiss the elbows together, reach them up, they'll peel apart. Take them out to the side. One more time. Okay, and then just relax, let the hands come onto the knees. And again, just let your attention go back to your next breath in and next breath out. And just notice what you notice in terms of a quality, a texture of your inhalation and of your exhalation. Okay. From there, we're going to come down to the legs a little bit. So we're going to scoot back in our chair. So you're a little bit further back in that chair. And then we're going to take one leg just out in front of us. So it's off the floor here, reaching long. Imagine that you're kind of pushing the sole of that foot into a wall. And then all we're going to do is start to roll on that pelvis. And we don't have to go very far, and you'll feel some stuff in the back of the thigh, kind of tensioning the hamstring. From here, crease that ankle, and then we're going to uncrease that ankle. So you'll feel how the tension on the back of that leg changes. And then you're going to crease that ankle again. Think about the foot being wide and long. And then uncrease that ankle. One more time. Crease that ankle. And uncrease that ankle. Okay, we're going to bend that knee. Just pause for a second, and then we're going to extend out on that other side, creasing that front of the ankle. Sit up nice and tall, and then we're going to bring the front crease of the front of the pelvis, the ASISs, and move them towards the tops of your thighs. Okay, so if you put your finger in the hip crease, as you hinge forward, you'll kind of squish it. Now, you don't have to come super far forward, but just so you start to squish your finger. And then we're going to uncrease that ankle and crease that ankle. Again, think about the foot being wide and long. One more. And long. And we're going to bend that knee. Okay, we're going to come back to the front of that chair, and this time extending out that other leg again. This time the heel is going to stay on the ground. Okay, so we're going to push down into that heel. Think about pulling back towards the chair with the other heel and bring that pelvis forward again. So you might find now in this position there's different sensation that you get through the back of the leg from when we were upright and the leg was extended. Okay, and we might reach the opposite hand out to those toes. And then come center, and then we might reach that same side hand out to those toes. And then that opposite hand. And same side hand. Okay, then we're gonna come up, bring that foot back in. No, there's nothing quite like a nice back of the leg stretch. We're gonna take that other leg out long. Remind you that you're alive, right? Okay, so we're gonna take the pelvis, move it forward again to squish those fingers. So you'll feel how your sitting bones kind of shine towards the back crease of that chair. Just breathe, kind of acclimate to the sensation. It's kind of like waking up this morning to have to scrape the ice off your windshield if you live in Calgary. And then take that opposite hand and maybe reach it towards the toes. You might or might not reach them, that's okay. And then same side hand reaches. Feel how you feel the sensation in different places. Opposite hand. Same side hand. Watch that the chair, if it's got wheels, doesn't pop out from underneath you as you reach forward. And then we're going to come all the way up and just stand the feet on the floor. So just take a second here again to come back to just observe your breath. You might feel it in a different area, the movement of the inhale and the exhale. You might notice that a quality has changed slightly. Okay, we're going to bring the right ankle up over that left knee. So you can use your hand to reach down and bring it up. If when you get the ankle on that knee, there's any sort of like pinchy or grabby stuff in the hip, you can take that leg out longer, the one that we're resting on, and then kind of decide where you want, how much rotation, how much flexion you want to have in that hip. Okay, but you want to be able to be here and be able to breathe. Okay. And then what we're going to play with is, again, taking the front of that pelvis forward in space. To the degree that our tissues and our nervous system is okay with the sensations that we're feeling in this elevated outer hip stuff. Okay. Sometimes I find it useful to take the hands and kind of cup that knee and then think about trying to push the knee into the hands. That can kind of create that co-contraction in that outer hip stuff. That then when I relax the push into my hands, all of a sudden I'm able to move the pelvis a little bit further. It's like the brain knows, okay, I still have control of those muscles. I can, engage them and co-activate around that joint. And just kind of observe your breath here. Like, is the inhale and the exhale able to be easy? And if you don't want to focus on feeling stuff in this outer hip stuff, something else you can do is kind of bring the forearms to the shin and think about trying to press the knee down, but the knee pressing up into that hand. And that'll change the sensation and move it around from that outer hip stuff into another area of that hip. And so then when you relax that, for some people, they'll find that, I have more access now to move into another position when I relax off that press and release. Okay, we're going to come out off that side. Just pause for a second, notice how that feels. And then we're going to bring up that left ankle over the right knee. And notice when you come to the other side, it's so fascinating. I don't know when or why we decided that our bodies are supposed to be symmetrical. But I'm sure, like we all know, like you can probably list 5 things right off the top of your head that you do not do the same on the left side as you do on the right side. So why would they be symmetrical? Right? And so just notice what you do with that. Like if you go, oh, this is my bad hip, or this is my bad side, or that's my good, or this is my good side. Okay? This is just your right side. It's doing its right side stuff. Okay, so once you're here, again, we're going to take the pelvis and start to hinge forward until we feel that outer hip stuff kind of load. We feel that stretch sensation. And then let's start with bringing the hands onto the outside of that knee. And we're going to think about trying to pull up the knee, but the knee's going to press down into the hands. And we'll feel how that engages some stuff, co-contracts some stuff in that hip. And we just want to dial up that isometric to the point that we can still breathe easy. Then you're going to relax that. You might notice you can settle into the position a little bit differently. And then we're going to bring the forearms onto that shin, and we're going to try to push down the knee with that left hand, but the knee is going to push up into that left hand. Okay, so we'll feel how we co-contract and engage different stuff in that hip. 4, 3, 2, and then we're going to relax. And again, you might notice that there's a different set of sensations, a different position you can kind of settle into. And then we're going to come all the way up, set that foot on the floor, and just take a second to check in with that breath. Okay, so we've done some stuff in hip flexion. And before we finish, I want to make sure that we do some stuff in hip extension. So you're going to come to the front of your chair, and some of you, depending on your chair, you'll use the seat. Some of you might use the arms of that of the chair. Okay, so whether you have the hands on the seat and the fingers could be kind of out to the side. Some of you might find that you want to actually come over the back of that seat. Okay, the feet are going to be on the ground, and what you're going to do is press the feet into the ground, press into the hands, and you're going to lift the hips. Think about reaching the knees away from the shoulders, and then we're going to scoot the hips back, hinge forward. Take a breath here. Then we're going to press into that seat again, squeezing the shoulder blades kind of towards one another and lift the hips. So this is a stretch for the front of the chest stuff, front of the hip stuff. Okay, and then scoot back in that chair, hinge back. I want you to try one other hand position here. Okay, because each of the hand positions gives you access to kind of a different shape that you could bring the body into. And then send the hips back. Okay, so now you're going to put your left hand on the center of the seat. Okay, right elbow in at your side. And as you lift the hips, the right hand's going to reach up and the left hand's going to push. We're going to extend the hips. Now that right hand, I can keep it towards the ceiling and just lower and lift. Or I can start to play with bringing that behind my head, maybe reaching that elbow and kind of thinking left knee, right elbow, getting a nice opening all through this front of the chest stuff. Okay. And then we're going to come down. So other side, that right hand's going to come onto the chair. Left elbow is tucked in. Okay, pressing into the feet, into the hand. Left arm reaches up. Hips come into extension. And lower down. So a couple of times. And lower down. Again, you could put that hand behind the head, and you could start to open that chest towards the ceiling, reaching the right knee and the left elbow on a diagonal from one another. And then you're going to wind yourself back down. Okay, that's probably one of my favorite hip chest stretches. So just take a second in sitting. And again, notice the breath. Notice how much weight is in the chair and in your pelvis here. How your feet feel on the floor. Wherever you are, I'm going to invite you to open the eyes if they're closed and really let the gaze expand. So even though there might be a computer screen or a phone in front of you, really let yourself see as much out here in the periphery as you can for the next few breaths. If you happen to have a window that you're able to look out, really kind of open up that view to, for the next few moments, take in as much as you can see of that periphery. Notice as your gaze kind of expands to be that periphery, notice what happens to the muscles around the eyes and of the face. Notice the muscles kind of around the neck, the upper chest. And we're going to finish with a breathing practice. It's super simple, unless you're someplace where you don't want to make any sounds. and then it may be very complicated for you. But all we're going to do is for the next 5 to 8 breaths, your exhale, you're going to make a hissing sound. Okay, so like a snake, you'll breathe in normally through the nose, and then the hiss is kind of through the teeth. So not through the lips, but hiss through the teeth. Okay, and as you're hissing, just kind of start to notice what happens with the sensations of your breathing, with your ribs and your rib cage, okay? So breathe in naturally through the nose. Let that gaze stay periphery, whether your eyes are open or closed. I'm going to invite you to bring your hands to your lower ribs. Three more breaths like this. Last one. Release the rib cage, just bring the hands to the thighs. Notice the texture and the feel of your next breath in and your next breath out. Bring the palms together. Let your gaze drop down on your fingertips. Just breathing in with attention and awareness. And breathing out the acknowledgement and recognition of taking some time to notice what you notice about your breath, about your body, and about your mind today. Thank you for practicing with me. Peace.